Good morning. My name is Skip Amos, and we're conducting this interview on the weekend before Memorial Day, which is very appropriate that we should be interviewing veterans. And this morning we're going to interview Larry Burbank. And Larry, why don't you tell me where you were born and raised?
Okay, I was born in Topeka, Kansas, 1936 in September.
Right.
And I'm a Kansas farm boy, really.
Okay.
And I have a twin brother. He still lives in Kansas. And I'm 7 minutes older than he.
Oh, okay. So you're the oldest.
So I'm the oldest.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when did you go into the service, and what service did you go into?
Okay, so I was still in high school. A little town called Racine, Kansas. Our National Guard artillery unit had just returned from Korea. They'd lost about a third of their members during that conflict, and we had a recruiting campaign, and 5 of us in my high school class enlisted on the same evening, and 3 out of the 5 made a career out of the military.
Wow, that's unusual.
It was.
Yes. I happen to be a Korean War veteran myself, having served in a MASH outfit in Korea. Now, you say it was an artillery.
155.
155.
Yeah.
The big guns.
Big guns.
Yes. Did you ever actually fire those in any sort of combat?
Not during combat. Only time I really fired those as a emotional event, we had a show and tell for Harry Truman up in Fort Ripley, Minnesota, when Harry Truman was still president.
Wow.
So we had a show and tell for him. It was kind of fun.
Yeah, and he was an old artillery officer.
He was, yeah. Yeah, he was the 35th Division man in Missouri, and I was the lanyard fella. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And now you're sitting here being interviewed, but you're in what looks like a flight suit, and you usually associate that with the Air Force, but you weren't in the Air Force.
No, I was in the Army, and the Army has more airplanes than the Air Force. More, I mean, a lot more. In fact, we have 6,000 helicopters. And of course, as you know, the Vietnam War was what they titled the Helicopter War. And
Right.
It was a new era. And as you know, the conflict started in '65.
Right.
And I was in the Guard in Kansas. And I was in the selected reserve. And in '68, we started double our training environment, and we knew we were going somewhere. So in '68, we got mobilized. 4,000 of us went from Kansas to Fort Carson, Colorado, and trained up. And I went to Chinook School at Fort Rucker out of Fort Carson, and completed Chinook School. That's at CH-47. And then went overseas.
Why don't you describe what a Chinook is? Because, you know, there's a heck of a lot younger people than we are, and they don't know what you're talking about.
I wish I had brought my helicopter with me. I have a CH-34 model, and believe it or not, it's made out of Vietnamese teak wood. Yeah. And we had a reunion quite often, and I was in what we call the mule skinners. Because you know what the mule skinners were at the turn of in the 1800s?
Yes.
And so we have big helicopters, so we did a lot of hauling. And the aircraft that I'm talking about has a rotor on each end. And it has a platform at the back. We can put 50 little people, I call them little people, the Vietnamese on that thing, or 35 fully loaded combat troops on it. And of course, we can haul 15,000 external loads. It's a big helicopter. And it's crew served. We had a door gunner, a flight engineer, pilot, and co-pilot. And wherever we went, we had a crew of 4.
And you were a pilot?
Yes.
Okay. And you have the rank of what?
I'm a CW5. That's the top warrant officer rank. And I was one of the first to make it because I had 20 years as a W4, so that kind of put me up the top of the list for the W5. So I was fortunate in that respect.
and eventually you served in Vietnam flying those Chinooks, right?
Yes, yes.
Tell us about it.
Well, when I got in country, of course, we were assigned to a replacement battalion, and my Chinook class, 4 of us, out of one class in Fort Rucker, ended up in the same unit in Vietnam, and it was a 242nd Aviation Battalion, a company rather, and we called ourselves the Mule Skinners, and it was quite a tour. Long days, a lot of flight hours. I didn't get any hand-to-hand conflict at all. I had a pretty clean job. I'd say Army aviation is the best job that the Army has today, and I think it still is. And it's very demanding, of course.
Right.
And a friend of mine, to quote him, he said, "Our aviators are God's chosen few."
That's a good phrase.
Yeah, because we're only 5% of the force.
Mm-hmm.
And we are really, we eliminated early on because in flight school, you had a table with the flight instructor, and there's 3 students. And the first day in flight school, at the flight line, they said, "Okay, guys, there's 3 of you today, but in 2 weeks we're going to have 2 of you here at this table." And that kind of shooks a guy up.
Right. So you better stay on your toes.
Better stay with it, because he said, "We're putting a lot of money and effort into you guys, and you better stay with the program."
Right.
So we did. We lost a third of our class.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you were in country, what was the attrition rate on the Chinooks when you were flying?
Well, to tell you the truth, in flight, I just had one hit,
Mm-hmm.
and we brought it back to our company.
Right.
So we were very fortunate, and we got into a lot of hot LZs, but
Explain what they are.
LZ,
Yeah.
it's a landing zone,
Right.
and in fact, that was a new term in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And we had fire support bases. You know what those are?
Tell us.
Okay, a fire support base. You take a look at the old wagon wheel in the early wars, where they, put
Circle the wagon.
circle the wagon. Exactly. Well, that's where we would put our fire support bases in. And these are artillery, 105s and 155s, and that was a big job for our Chinooks, was support the artillery, because we were big enough to do that. And we would bring in the artillery after the perimeter was set up. So we'd put a 105 in the center of that LZ, and then we start bringing in other artillery, because the LZ might be there for a month or 2.
Right. Right.
Before they
And
got
they could fire a lot of shells.
a lot of shells. And we bring in the gun, then we go back and get the black powder, I'm talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and the ammunition, and constantly resupply.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
So we did a lot of work on the Cambodian border. Up in, I was stationed at Cu Chi, which was up the river, up Highway 1 from Saigon, about 30 miles. And we worked the Pearce Peak. If you take a look at the map, the Pearce Peak is near Tay Ninh. We had some of the most memorable missions. Was we had a mountain we called Nui Ba Dien. And we worked the delta. Of course, there's a lot of flat land, and of course the south was south of us in the rice paddies. We had a lot of rice paddies in our area, but that mountain went 3,300 feet straight up out of the delta. And the bottom was controlled by the VC, and the center by the VC. Once in a while we'd move out and we'd take the bottom, but we never could get the VC or the NVA out of the center of that mountain. And we had the top of that mountain. We had a support we had a signal battalion up there that sent signals all over Vietnam, retransmit, and some would go back to the States. And so we would supply that company and that battalion up there with everything. I mean, everything from generators to food and water. I mean, we were the lifeline to those folks. And it's interesting missions because
Yeah. Did you take out the wounded?
we did. Some of the dead. Of course, those are things you don't want to think about.
No.
You know, the body bags coming on.
Yeah.
And our approach to that mountain would have to be steep because the VC were down here, so we'd have to make a steep approach to that LZ. We couldn't come in like this
Yes.
because we'd be within their range of their weapons. you know.
Right.
So it was kind of exciting. At one time, we even took up a flight of donut dollies. We had 3 girls that were going to entertain the troops, and those boys were really appreciative of everything we did.
Oh, I bet.
And I have a friend here he actually lives in Manchester, that was assigned to that battalion headquarters, and he lived there for 6 months.
Wow.
And
That's a long time to be in
it's a
out
small.
in an active zone.
Oh, it is, yeah. But yeah, we did a lot of resupply missions. We'd go into the LZs and the fire support bases in the early mornings. Of course, the activity was a lot at night, and we'd go in and resupply the next day, and we'd see what happened the night before. It was not good.
No.
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 But as you know, war is not fun.
No. No.
But if you go into it, you need to go into it to win.
Yeah, that's part of our problem today.
It is.
People don't understand that.
Right.
How war is not pretty.
No, it's a dirty game.
It's an awful, awful, terrible game.
Yeah.
Personally, I lost my brother in a battle of Bulge in the Second World War. My
Did
oldest
you
brother.
really? Uh-huh.
And then, of course, I served in a MASH outfit in Korea, and it's just horrible. It's
Sure.
just horrible. You can't describe it to people, and you don't want to describe
No.
it to people.
No.
And the same thing with you, with your Chenauts bringing the wounded and the dead out. It's a terrible, terrible situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I've flown about 12 different aircraft in my career, and every aircraft has a special part.
Yeah.
It really is. The Huey is a wonderful machine,
Mm-hmm.
the UH-1 Huey. And
How many years did you continue to fly?
okay, so I flew from March 8th of 1961 until September 30th of 96. In that last 4 or 5 years, I didn't fly very much. I was assigned to the Pentagon as an aviation safety officer, and I traveled all the states. So I was not in the cockpit a lot. I was a lot in commercial air.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So, total, how many years of service did you render?
I was 6 weeks short of 43 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
Uh-huh. But it goes fast.
Yeah, well, most people are lucky if they serve 30 years, but
Mhm.
46 years is an enormous amount of time for a little old Kansas City farm boy.
It was. They asked me, see, they take us out of the cockpit at 60 because our thinking isn't as quick, our hands aren't as fast, so we have to be pretty fast and furious, so to speak, in the cockpit. But they asked me to stay 2 more years and not fly at all, but I've got over 40 years in. I think I'll probably retire.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a good record. I was the Aviation Safety Officer of the Year for the U.S. Army in '91,
Right.
and that was kind of neat.
Yeah.
And I got the Distinguished Flying Cross
Mm-hmm.
in Vietnam. And
What other service medals did you receive?
I've got a whole book full out there.
Yeah, yeah, I bet.
Yeah, with so many years, I do have a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I used to have them on the wall in my family room, but it got so crowded I put them in a book. My wife said, better get them off the wall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I did bring a little Minuteman, and it's really neat. And you know what the Minuteman is?
Well, tell the audience.
The Minuteman is back in the early 1800s. In fact, it's before then. Our country was beginning to shed its ties with England. And of course, we had a standing army that was rather small.
Mm-hmm.
So what did we need? We needed our farmers and our people, citizens, to drop the plow, pick up arms, and defend our country against the aggression of the English. As you know the story.
Yes.
Right. So this Minuteman at the Guard Bureau headquarters in Arlington, Virginia, is a huge Minuteman, probably as tall as this ceiling, maybe taller.
Wow.
And it's very impressive. So when my wife, I get ready to retire in '96, so she took a picture of this Minuteman, sent the picture to a friend of mine in Kansas, and he hand carved it.
Wow.
And the musket alone is unbelievable. And if we'd have a minute or two, I'd like to go get that Minuteman and show that here. Okay, this is the Minuteman. As you can see, the Minuteman dropped his clothing, his work clothing, on this plow. Here's his plow. And he took up arms as the Minuteman, and see his ammunition pouch? And here's his musket.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And that's probably one of that. I don't know of any other anywhere except those two.
But that's really the start of our nation.
Start of our nation.
That's how the Revolutionary
Revolutionary
soldiers were
War.
recruited
Right.
and so forth, patriots. They
yes.
were farmers because we were an agriculture
Right.
country, and they were recruited right out of the fields
Right.
to join the Revolutionary Army.
Mm-hmm. And this goes back years and years and years.
I know I've often heard this, read in the history books and so forth, that the Revolutionary Army went up against the greatest fighting machine ever in the history of the world, which was the British Empire,
Right.
and defeated them. And
Exactly.
that was amazing.
Because these guys used new tactics.
Yes.
See, they used the Indian tactics.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Guerrilla warfare.
Right, so to speak.
And you're right. They adopted that from the Indians.
Right. So this is our citizen soldier,
Mm-hmm.
is what he is. And of course we have, this nation will probably never be defeated because of our citizenry.
Well, we hope so.
We hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Today only about 1% are serving.
Right.
So we need to take care of our 1%.
Yes.
But-
Now, Larry, how did you wind up in Carroll County then?
Well, I got talked into coming back to the Pentagon area in 1989. They thought, bring some of your expertise in the field to our headquarters, because there's a lot of, I guess, experience needed at higher echelons, So I agreed to do that, and I came back here in 1989.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Good. And you wound up living here in Carroll County ever since?
Yes. Well, actually, in '96, we bought a little farm in Missouri, and then my wife is a Maryland girl, so we decided to come back here. So we live on a big high hill on the Pennsylvania line called Teapot Dome.
Okay.
dyed-in-the-wool Carroll counties now.
Good, that's wonderful, that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Uh-huh.
Did you have any children? Do you have any?
Yeah, between the two of us, we have 6.
Okay, and any of those in the service?
No.
Okay,
I have a son-in-law that was in Desert Storm.
okay,
Uh-huh. And now I have a son. I should take that back. He's a lieutenant colonel now in Italy. He's an Army chaplain.
yeah,
He's getting ready to come back to the States in July. He'll be in Fort Bliss, Texas.
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
He's a career man.
a career serviceman, sure.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And chaplains are very well needed
Yes, they are.
for lots of things.
Hmm. He does a good job.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, we really do appreciate your service to America and to the world, actually, because America, of course, is the beacon of freedom throughout the world. Although a lot of people would not believe that, but we really
That's
are.
true. That's true.
And we appreciate it, and we thank you very, very much for coming in, to being interviewed. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the audience
Well,
about your service?
probably one thing I'd like to leave the youngsters with is if you don't have anything to do with your life after school, consider the military, because sometimes that can turn you around.
Right.
And you'll be surprised what you can get from your military service.
And most of them don't realize the wonderful schooling that's available in the military.
That's true.
They run magnificent schools, everything from automobile mechanics to linguists, the researchers, computer technicians, scientists.
Exactly.
They have the whole gamut.
If I were to pay for my military aviation experience in schooling, it'd be up in the millions.
Right.
So,
And it all came free,
right. And
along with some meals.
almost. I carry my civilian certificates. I
Right.
can go out and fly the civilian world, but I haven't since I retired.
Right.
Hmm.
Well, again, thank you very much, Larry, and this is a great contribution to the History Project and the military service of Carroll Countyans, and we look forward to many, many long years for you and good health for this country.
Thank you, and thank you for your time, and I'd like to thank the facility here for setting this
Thank
system.
you very much.
Yeah.